Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Rodrigo Soto, and I am the Legislative and Campaigns Director here at the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis. We're here today because Virginia is facing an affordability crisis. Healthcare costs continue to rise, and we expect more people to become uninsured this year because of massive federal cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Child care costs sometimes equal or exceed rent and mortgage payments, and our hardworking teachers are still being paid below the national average. Thankfully, lawmakers in the Virginia Senate are proposing to meet this moment with a budget that makes investments in these areas and more. We'll hear from one of our legislative champions here in the Senate, as well as the storytellers who will share how these investments in the Senate budget will impact them. And obviously, a lot of these investments are thanks to the Senate taking action on asking data centers to pay their fair share. So without further ado, we'll start with Senator Russell Perry.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Russell Perry. I represent Western Loudoun County and Northern Fauquier County in Virginia's 31st Senate District. For those of you who may not know, Virginia hosts roughly 35% of the world's largest data centers. Those are hyperscale data centers. By definition, those are data centers that carry more than 5,000 servers inside of them. On top of that, Loudoun County contains the largest concentration of data centers anywhere on the planet, with about 200 data centers already having been built and another 116 in the pipeline. This industry is not a struggling industry. It is not a fragile industry. The sales and use tax exemption that was created for data centers was originally created to attract this industry, and it worked. The growth has been extraordinary. But what began as an incentive has turned into an automatic billion-dollar subsidy. Last year alone, that exemption cost Virginia taxpayers $1.6 billion in lost revenue. That's a 118% increase over just the previous year. And it's not just for startup construction. Every time servers are refreshed, which happens regularly, those updates that we all do on our computers, the exemption applies again. Meanwhile, Virginians, everyday people, are opening record high electric bills. They are seeing transmission infrastructure expand across rural landscapes. They are feeling the strain on land use, water resources, and our grid. So yes, of course, with this exemption, the pushback on this exemption, we will have pushback of our own as this pushback threatens the revenue stream of billions of dollars to the wealthiest corporations in the world. We have already heard, and we will continue to hear things like ending this exemption hurts jobs, that it will make Virginia less competitive, and that the sky is falling. But consider this. Virginia is already the global epicenter of this industry. Companies build here because of our fiber infrastructure, our proximity to federal agencies, our skilled workforce, our stable regulatory environment, and our existing cluster of facilities. That network effect does not disappear because we ask the wealthiest companies in the world to pay the same sales tax every other industry pays. This proposal is not anti-business. It is pro-taxpayer. It is pro-ratepayer. And it is pro-fairness. We are not banning data centers. We are not shutting down growth. We are simply saying that when an industry has matured, when it is generating record profits, it is reasonable to revisit whether taxpayers should continue subsidizing its equipment purchases to the tune of billions of dollars a year. And let's be clear about what it means. By ending this exemption, what we get in return is the revenue to invest in replacing expired federal ACA subsidies, providing more teachers for teacher retirement and school construction, providing more affordable child care, increasing the standard deduction, and giving teachers, state employees, our public servants, a raise. The true competitiveness question is this. Does removing an exemption for one industry that is already established here mean that they can't be here anymore? Or does it mean that maybe our residents can afford their utility bills? Maybe they can afford to live here. Maybe our teachers and first responders can live in the communities where they serve. maybe the infrastructure costs won't be increasingly shifted onto people here in Virginia anymore, but will be paid by the industry that's causing the infrastructure costs in the first place. Responsible governance requires us to evaluate incentives when they outlive their purpose. The data center industry came, it grew, it thrived. Now it's time for balance, which the Senate budget creates. The Senate budget is about affordability, it's about fairness, and it's about putting Virginians first. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. Next, we'll hear from Rosie Saavedra, Chesterfield, to share her healthcare story and how these critical investments will impact her life.
Hello, my name is Rosie Saavedra. You guys can look there, right? I'm a resident of Chesterfield, Virginia, and I'm a member of We Are CASA. Today, I raise my voice because the challenge we are facing are not just about clean energy. They're about the daily lives of families like mine. Paying for health insurance, electricity, food, and housing has become a constant struggle. Many residents in Virginia are going through the same thing. They cannot afford their health coverage. Their children do not always have access to the affordable child care and the cost of basic needs. Kids rising, this is not a lead, this is a survival. Cuts to the ACA, and the lack of support for child care programs directly impact people who live here, who work hard, who pay taxes, and who contribute to our economy. They don't have the same rights and opportunities. Low-income families, immigrants, and communities of color are the ones paying the price. If data centers and other large opportunities pay the taxes they truly own, we will have the resources to find accessibly healthcare, affordable childcare, and clean air energy for everyone. This is not a handout. If it is a justice, it is about making sure no one is left behind, while others can benefit from tax breaks. My story is just one of many here in Virginia. We are raising our voices so that leaders understand that every project decision has a real impact on our families' lives. We deserve to live with dignity, to have access to essential services, and to guarantee a safe and hopefully future for our children and grandchildren. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Rosie. And next we'll hear from Carol Bauer with the Virginia Education Association.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carol Bauer. I'm a fourth grade teacher currently serving as a president in the Virginia Education Association. And I'm here today with families, with our partners, to talk about the budget debate. It's really a basic question about fairness. Who carries the load in Virginia and who gets a pass? Right now, Virginia's tax system isn't fair. A teacher pays the same top state income tax rate as millionaires. That doesn't make sense. And as a fourth grade teacher teaching about government, I want it to make sense. And it certainly doesn't make sense that some of the most profitable corporations on this whole planet can receive massive special tax breaks and abatements while our communities are told to settle for whatever they can get, whatever they have now. It's not looking to the future of Virginia, and it doesn't support our communities. That's why VEA educators support the Senate budget proposal to end data center tax abatements, specifically by letting the data center sales tax exemption rate expire. This impact would be powerful, and that step would generate nearly $1 billion over this biennium. Money that can be reinvested where it actually helps Virginia families in strong public schools, affordable health care, reliable transportation, and child care that working parents can't afford. Let me be clear, we're not against jobs, but for a tax code that works for everyday people and for communities communities to have the resources they need to thrive. When powerful interests get special carve-outs, that cost doesn't disappear. It gets shifted onto working families and onto local communities, trying to do more with less. And we feel that less every day in our schools and communities. This revenue will support jobs and our public sector workers across the board. We're in a staffing crisis in our schools. We need to pay teachers competitively on a real path to the national average. We need to make sure education support professionals can earn a living wage without juggling multiple jobs. We want to make sure public sector workers across Virginia, educators, state employees, and other public servants that depend on a budget and it values their work. New sustainable revenue is essential to do that. The Senate budget is also stronger than the House on compensation. 3% raises instead of 2%. 3% still isn't enough to keep up with what our educators and other public sector workers are faced with. But it's a better step, and a step that's only possible when we stop giving away the store to corporations that can more than afford to contribute. Let me say that again. These corporations can afford fair assessments, and they should pay their fair share to support the workers and the communities that they live in. So today we're calling on budget negotiators. Keep the Senate's data center, revenue reforms, in the final budget. Close special loopholes. Ask the biggest, the wealthiest corporations to pay their fair share. And use that revenue to make life more affordable for Virginia families and to strengthen the public services that make our communities work. Because in Virginia, prosperity should be shared, our tax code should reflect our values, and should support our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. And finally, we'll hear from Alexis here, who will talk about the differences in child care and why child care funding is so critical to her and her family.
Good morning. My name is Alexis Gresham, and I am a senior at Virginia Union University. I'm also a full-time public schools employee and a full-time mom to my beautiful 3-year-old Kenzie. I'm here today because child care costs are too high. I work hard every day to ensure my child has a roof over her head and food on the table. I pay my bills, including my increasingly high tuition costs, and also child care, which is $1,300 a month. That's basically another rent payment. And my story is not unique. I know countless other parents, including student parents like myself, juggling full-time work and college courses in order to build a brighter future for our families, but only to be held back by increasing costs. That is why I'm thankful to stand here today and alongside everyone here to call on lawmakers to pass a budget that makes big investments in child care because families cannot wait. When I got a small pay raise at work, I was no longer eligible for the state child care subsidy, even though my pay raise would not cover the sudden jump in my child care costs. Nobody should fear getting promoted or a salary increase for fear of losing a critical safety net. That is why I'm thankful the Senate budget includes funding to phase our subsidy funds. Additionally, the Senate puts in 50 times more money into the employer match program to incentivize companies to provide child care for their workers. As a soon-to-be college graduate, I know how important that sort of benefit will be for me and countless other college students who are current or soon-to-be parents will also be able to benefit from being able to fully participate in the workforce and not face sky-high childcare costs. I got one simple message from lawmakers as they begin their budget negotiations. Make life more affordable and start with child care. Thank you.
The real star of the show is here as well. Well, you heard it here. We're asking data centers to pay their fair share, and the numbers don't lie. I have copies of TCI's budget side by side for any reporters, anyone who would like to see. But we know that there are increased investments in the Senate proposed budget because we ask data centers to pay their fair share. And by doing so, we're able to invest in healthcare, in childcare, and in compensating our public sector workers, including our very hardworking teachers.